Hey guys, so we have a surprise family member
Surprise.
today. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time to ask. We have another month, maybe 6 weeks. Do we have 6 weeks left here? Is that
Something like that.
something like that?
Somebody's
And
Welcome,
hello, hello.
Mr. Number One, Mrs. Number One.
For any of you who are new viewers, this is my husband. This is John,
Hi, everybody.
and he's here for 2 weeks to take care of family business that is not related to us. And we're making the most of it by also getting to have him. Off-grid lifestyle. Hello, hello.
Hi, guys.
Usually I know I do my live show quite a bit earlier, but we've been running kids to grandparents and we've been in and out of town, so we just had to wait until we could drive out. So make sure to write your comments in all caps because we do have the camera quite a bit distance from our eyeballs,
So we're squinting to kind of look and.
so we can't really see. So John has been in school and working in Tulsa, and we have been here for the summer irrigating and helping the renters with goat births and landscaping and that kind of thing.
And she's currently setting up the spinning wheel just underneath the screen.
Everybody's here.
Yeah.
Rose is here.
Hi, wholesome Ruts.
Okie Girl's here. Okie Girl's actually
Oh, hey.
been over with John.
Yeah. We've been prepping bunnies.
Prepping bunnies.
Prepping freezer meals. How are they, Okie Girl? Have you tried them yet?
All right. So you go ahead and read
John.
comments because I can't watch while I'm
Off-grid
doing this.
lifestyle says glad seeing John. Thank you. It's glad to be back. I'm glad.
It's glad to be
It's
back.
glad to be back. Well, it puts lotion on its skin.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Thank you, Thomas. He agrees. Yeah, these are way far away. We might have to do some mid-show camera adjustment
No,
here.
you can't adjust it, otherwise everybody's head
I
gets
know, but
cut
it's
off.
gonna have to come in. Or
And
I'm
then
gonna
it
have to,
blocks light.
or I'm gonna go get my phone and then have to read
Yeah, you
comments
might
down
have to
there.
do
So, well, I'll start the show and I'll join in the conversation when I
Okay.
get back.
So I have about a month, maybe a little more than a month before Catherine and I are down in, not down, down a little bit, I guess. We'll be in Santa Rosa for the Bakers Creek Expo.
And what state is that in?
That's Santa Rosa,
California?
yes.
Ah.
And after that, as soon as that is finished, we are packing up from the off-grid cabin and going back to Tulsa. Hopefully John will have a rental ready for us by the time we get there. Something that is a little bit more family friendly than the one we were in before. That house had a lot to do with design. This house is a little more user friendly just because of the way we designed it, and the other house had an addition on it that made it a little bit awkward. I guess if we'd had the time and the ability to change up some of the floor plan, it would have made a difference, but it was still a somewhat difficult house to live in with two little girls. So in this house, because we have the upstairs, we have two lofts. One of them is strictly for storage, so we have plenty of space to put anything we need to, and then the other one is for sleeping, which means that we have 320 square feet of just plain living space downstairs that is not cluttered by sleeping arrangements or storage of any kind. And John will be back. By the way, everybody that's watching right now and wondering about the title, John ran out to go get his phone so that he can read comments because we're having a hard time reading the comments from this distance. So I have a whole list of videos that I need to get finished before we leave the off-grid cabin, and it's no longer pertinent. But this morning I almost thought about lighting the stove. It was really cold this morning, and yesterday morning it was cold. So even though it's just the beginning of August, it is starting to chill off a little bit. Will I be staying in Tulsa for a long time? So John is going to have at least a 1-year contract there, and so once we have the rental and everything, we will be there. And the likelihood of us coming back here to Idaho is pretty good that we'll be coming back for at least a few weeks next summer, just because it is helpful for the renters for us to come back and just kind of help them get things started. And it's good to come see family. All of my family, all of John's family is here in Idaho with the exception of his sister, who's actually going to be a lot closer to us. She's in Iowa right now. But for the most part, our family is here in Idaho. And so it's kind of like just a little bit of a staycation type of a thing to come home and be off grid for a little while. But we get to where we miss John quite a bit after a couple weeks. And so I'm really hoping that next summer we won't be here from March till September. We'll maybe be here from April to the end of May. I think that's pretty good timing. Oh, I lost it. Darn it. Sometimes with these Navajo plies, if you don't do them tight enough, then you lose your twist stick.
So you might need to reintroduce it if somebody else has shown up.
Yeah, I did. I said that John had to walk out and get his phone.
Okay.
So this is my husband, John. And I'm not taller than him. I'm as tall as him. He just needs to sit up straight so that
5'2".
I don't look like I'm taller than you.
Julie will be staying. Oh, gotcha. I think that's the one you were just answering.
What an intriguing way of spinning. What's that method called, Mrs. Dirt? So this one is Navajo ply, and when I take my eyes off of it, I keep losing it. It's a Navajo ply, which is a triple strand, and what it really is, to all intents and purposes, is a chain stitch. And I have to make sure I don't have too much pull, because I used a blue face Leicester, and it's kind of soft and delicate like a merino. So I actually need to, I think I need to take some of my twist out and maybe go down one. I need to take it down a whirl, increase the twist, and decrease the pull, because it wants to be twisted just a little bit more before it gets pulled on.
Wholesome Ruts, all the moving around must be hard at times.
Not even at times. All the time it's hard. It's hard on us physically. It's really hard on the girls. Really hard. They hate traveling now, which was not my intention in this whole thing. I was hoping they would be excited about seeing new places, but kids love family, and kids love having their own bed and everything like that, and they are not fans of traveling anymore.
Well, and our method of traveling was
Intense.
Sprint to the next stop. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And it did not go well for sightseeing or seeing new places.
Yeah, because everywhere we went, we were actually going into film when we were traveling a lot. Now when we travel, it's pretty much the same thing again. It's hurry and get from Tulsa to Idaho. We go and see some fun little houses, but if there's anything fun in the area to do, we don't have a lot of hours to spend doing it. Like when we went to the beach in Northern California, we were there for maybe 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun, but it wasn't necessarily relaxing.
So Frederick Nolan's asking how Oklahoma is going. Really good. When I get back, I have as far as I know, I have a permanent position at one of the hospitals over there. They are willing to work around school, so I'm actually going to go back for that second year, even though I've completed all of the requirements for the 2-year program, because now I can utilize that time, delve deeper, and actually get a few more tools under my belt, if that makes sense, and still hold a full-time job, because they're going to be totally flexible on the hours, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, the girls are mostly just really excited to have beds again, even though they love it here. Kaya has some real fairy tale stuff going on in her head about what it was like to live in the big house and what it was like to have a real home base instead of traveling as much as we do. And I think that's all very interesting. She's so young, and she was so young when we left, that it does feel like a fairy tale to her. She really hasn't had a real bed since she was 6. She's 9. We have very comfortable sleeping situations, but the last one, they were sleeping on benches that I made for them that were, fine as beds, but they were benches for food storage and doubled as couches and beds in the living room. And then here, I sleep upstairs with them in the loft, and it's very comfortable, but it's not a lot of privacy. And
Go ahead.
so she talks with a lot of nostalgia about the big house, and when we talk about continuing to rent it or selling it, she gets really emotional because she wants to go back and kind of re-experience it. Even if we didn't stay there, I think she really just wants to go back and re-experience it for a while, and just because of the nostalgia for her.
So Dumpster Dad's Paranormal Homestead just asked the golden question. He says, do you guys have any regrets about going off-grid? My family is considering it. And
Not regrets, because we have other options. Isn't that how you would say it? It's hard to regret something that is just an option, not something you're locked into.
Okay, yes.
We have an option to be in other places.
We're living our bucket list.
Yeah, it's a bucket list.
And this was part of it. Do you... Okay,
we have very, very little money in it.
Correct.
And so if we decided that we didn't want to have this on our property anymore and we wanted to just sell it, we could sell it, and it would just have been an experience, not necessarily a pitfall.
Okay. But I think he's asking about any regrets about it.
I don't know how we could, this is a very, very, very small part of what we have done for the last 2-3 years. This is a very small part of it. The thing that we might have had regret about was going on the trip altogether, because what we did was we put our house and our farm up for rent, and we traveled the country taking videos of other people's homesteads and tiny houses and that kind of thing. And so the off-grid house itself is just the cherry on the cake. We went and saw so many of them. We went and stayed in so many of them. We went and experienced so many of them. It didn't make sense not to then come back and try it ourselves, right? It was like we went and saw what everybody else did. What's our take on this way of life? And so it felt like we hadn't really finished the project until we came and did it ourselves. But at the same time, we still own a home on this property that's not off-grid. And we have a job back in Oklahoma that's not off-grid. This is us playing. Does that make sense? This is my playhouse where I test out things that I would want to have in a future home without having the obligation of staying here and having no other option. We didn't go out into the middle of the wilderness and do an off-grid cabin. This is our own property. We've owned it for 7 years now. And we have our own food forest on the property. We have a rental home that pays us an income on the property. And so it's a system. Everything that I do is a system, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It all just kind of feeds into each other. I'm very cautious about having only one option. I don't like to have only one option. I like everything to be built into itself so that, and it has to pay for itself in some way. If the cabin didn't pay for itself by us being able to make videos for it, I never would have done it, because I don't believe in making those kind of investments not really knowing what the outcome would be. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Dumpster Dad? I watched and enjoyed your travel videos. I'm glad to see you doing so well. That's what he says again. So, I don't know. Yeah, did that answer your question?
It's a very philosophical thing for us. It's more of just what we learned as we left the farm was that there's so many things in life you can experience, and there's not just one way to experience them. We could have gone out and bought a $130,000 tiny house and dragged it with a diesel truck across the country, but that would have cost a lot of money, and there was no real way to guarantee that we would make any of that money back, that we'd be able to sell the thing again. And so it made a lot more sense, because it was what we wanted to do, to come back to our own property where we already owned the property. It was making money for us, and plunk down something really tiny. We already had the well with the hand pump. We already had everything set up. We had our food systems set up. We have support systems here. And so instead of putting our family in danger or under too much stress to do it, We found ways to barter to get the inside cute. Most of what we did to make the house cute and livable was bartered. Very, very, very little of it was purchased. And that's what made it comply with our bucket list, was that we didn't have to go into a huge amount of debt and then have it fail and have nothing come back out of it and not be able to resell it.
He said that did answer his question.
Okay.
So, let's see. John, how have you liked summer in Oklahoma compared to Idaho? Holly in the Ozarks. I will say Idaho has been... I've been here for 2 weeks. It is...
A week.
A week, sorry. A week with one to go. The summer is nicer, sort of. Let me explain that. The dry air up here definitely is different. You of course, well, you're in the Ozarks. You understand about being wrapped in that blanket of humidity. But I did not really find it refreshing in the way that I've heard a lot of people describe it.
The humidity or
the
the
lack
dry
of
air?
humidity up here.
Oh, the dry air.
It's
stifling.
Danny,
I think the dry air is stifling.
A little bit. Like I did have like that sore throat. Can I get a drink of water for about 3 days? It was incredible. But I remember Danny in your North versus South video talking about how they just loved the coming up here, and they'd be out here in 100-degree weather. The actual heat aspect of it, I haven't actually noticed a difference. I was a little bit shocked.
It's a lot easier to get sunburned here, where our altitude is much higher, and you just burn like a lobster here. You have to be really, really careful.
Exactly. So, I have definitely loved being close to my family for the summer. That has been a really nice change.
Well, and I've been in Oklahoma for the summer. When I was in my 20s, I worked in, I can't remember the name of the town. And I loved the humidity, but I was in my 20s and I was probably dressing a little skimpier than I do now as a mom. And I really enjoyed the humidity, and I enjoyed the heat, and I enjoyed being in the middle of a city and being around people and having bike paths. So far, the only thing I don't like about Oklahoma is the ticks. Isn't that pretty accurate? I liked it pretty well.
Murphy's Law. First day she got over there for our Missouri trip, and she got a tick.
I did. Because I like to be outside. Because that's the thing, is I love to be outside. I don't want to be inside. And so the danger of rubbing up against a bush and ending up with ticks all over me, I'm not terribly thrilled with that, because it's pretty much how I love to live, is out rambling around in nature.
Now, that being said, they do have ticks here. They just don't tend to like her as much as they do down in Oklahoma. So, is that what you...
No,
how
that's
you describe
inaccurate.
it?
We don't
Ticks
have
like you down
we don't
up here
have ticks
too?
here in our valley right here. You do if you go up into the sagebrush in the hills, but here in our farmland area, I've never ever even seen a tick here that wasn't on a sheep, and they're a different kind of tick. A sheep tick is not a deer tick. They don't carry Lyme's disease. So, and you only get those if you've had them out in a big flock, and you bring in a contaminated one that's had ticks on them. So.
Green shell. It's an L. I can't read these little things. I need a bigger screen. John, is what you're training for able to be done remotely? So could you work from home? I could.
But not at this point.
The big thing right now is that, of course, you get done with school, you get all the certifications, you get the diploma, blah, 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 and now you don't have enough experience. So now I've got to go work, and I'm thrilled to work. I've got an amazing boss, and I'm working for a really good company that's excited to have me there. But it is not what I was in school for. It's loosely related, but yes, what I want to do can be completely done remotely. So it would just be a matter of getting to that point, I guess.
And one thing that I think would be fun is to go back to some of those places where we didn't get to spend enough time, especially by the ocean, because the girls really loved the ocean. And when I went to Hawaii in May, all I could help thinking was, oh my goodness, the girls would have so much fun here. And so, kind of depending on how the business works out between my business and John's business over the next year, I think it would be fun to take some much more leisurely trips to some of these places that we really loved and stay for 6 weeks and do something like that. But it all really, really hinges on what John is doing. Because I think we've had enough time on separate halves of the country. And it's really, really not optimal, even though it was just because, I think that's pretty normal. Traditionally, like 100 years ago, it'd be pretty normal to go to grandma's and live for 3 months in the summer, type of a thing. That's, to all intents and purposes, that's what we've done, is we just came back to our own property to work for the summer. But it turns into a really long time, and I think I'd like to keep those visits shorter and be a little more normal now.
Frederick Nolan asks, do you change your big house to an off-grid, and how much time would it take?
No.
Yes, and unfortunately it would take about $45,000 because you would want to, because it is built as an on-grid house, and so to power all of the systems, including the pump, the pressure tank, the stuff to pump water, would take a whole house solar system. And it would probably be about 2 kilowatts needed, plus the battery bank and everything else. So you would be easily in 5 figures, even if you skimped.
My parents had an enormous, almost 6,000 square foot off-grid house when I was a kid, and we had solar panels. They had the big propane tank out back. They had the 200-gallon, or was it 500-gallon? I think it was 500-gallon. 500-gallon milk tank in the basement inside the root cellar that was used for water storage. And they had all the systems, but their house was enormous. And so even though they had the big fancy Pioneer Princess wood stove to keep things warm, it wasn't strong enough to heat the rest of the house, so they had to put in propane heaters. And then when they put in the propane heaters, it was beautiful. And it's much easier to be off-grid in a very tiny space because you can be selective about what you have power for. And the more efficient you are in your own personal habits, not even just related to cost, but related to effort, the easier it is. Even with the handyman, it's Handee, handyman. They have a very tiny house. They're 100% off-grid. They have all the electricity they could possibly want with their little system. I think he said his cost him $30,000 for their tiny house to be run 100% on solar panels. And what it really comes down to is, what do you want to spend your money on? And what do you want it to do? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times off-grid is like a little cause. It becomes a cause. And I think there's something that you need to look at as far as, are you going off-grid for therapeutic reasons, or are you going off-grid for independent reasons? You want to be independent from the grid, or are you wanting to go off-grid because you want the experience of living without electricity? Because those two things are very, very different. I'm off-grid for therapeutic reasons. I want to be off-grid, meaning no power. Whereas other people, they want to be off-grid, but they want to have as much power as they want to run everything that they could possibly think of running. And those are very, very, very different mindsets. They're not, one isn't better than the other. But don't confuse the two. Don't confuse the therapeutic with the independence. They don't have to do the same thing.
Holly in the Ozarks says, John, not far from you, she's talking about down in Tulsa, is the Walmart home office in Bentonville, which is in Arkansas. It's about a couple hours away. They employ tons of IT positions, including cybersecurity. Okay, so that actually hits on a really good point. And I'm trying to figure out how to say this correctly, because if not, it's going to sound like complaining, I guess. I have looked at Walmart, definitely. Looked into Kansas City, looked into St. Louis, all of the big cities for all of the cybersecurity positions that are out there. Unfortunately, everybody who is hiring for cybersecurity wants a senior level information security officer, ISO, okay? And they want either there's a discommunication between management of security and HR, or management is coming through with their ideal candidate that they're looking for. And so the ads, time and time again, are senior level, person with 10 years experience, person with master's degree and 5 years experience.
But the field is so new.
Or,
the field is so new.
yes, the
who
field is,
has all those?
right. And so a lot of these positions end up going unfilled. And I actually had a little bit of a topic on LinkedIn with a company called Quick Trip that I kind of laid it out saying, look, I'm really excited to come to work for you. I would love to come to work for you over there at QT, and trust me, I can learn this, and I can learn it quickly, and I can get up to speed, but I don't meet any of your HR requirements, and so the computer just automatically kicks me out of the system. I don't even get an email back or anybody, even though I've talked to her directly. And so I think that there is a gap somewhere, an air gap, that communication is breaking down. And I think the rest of the rant I'll save for the cybersecurity community, because then it gets deep into the weeds.
But he likes his job, and he's excited
I really
to be
do.
there.
It's been wonderful. And so working for this hospital has just been amazing. So, comment? I don't know. Did that answer any question? No, maybe that didn't answer the question. Let's see. Oh, hey, we got a troll. Hi, Bob. Bye, Bob.
Yes, I catch my hair in the spinning all the time.
Bye, Bob.
I always have some kind of, every time any article of clothing or yarn goes out from my hands, it has pieces of me with it, which I'm sorry. I know that sounds really nasty, but it does.
So, Robert B., hi. Good to see you. This is not a troll. So, nobody got to see any of those comments. They were held for review automatically. So,
I just can't read.
yeah.
When are you all coming to Michigan?
Ooh, that would be fun. We should go up there.
My brother's in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
One thing I think that we kind of regret, at least I regret, is that we didn't make it. There was so much of the U.S. that we didn't make it to the eastern states above Georgia. We didn't get to anybody there. And the middle states, we missed those too. But what had happened was once we got into Florida and then what happened was I needed to be able to get back home to help with the farming. And so instead of finishing our trip once spring got there, we ran home, and then we never came back. We never got back on the road.
Yeah, we were originally planning to go back out for that. We'll do that
But
next year.
if you guys watch Justin Rhodes, you'll remember that when they got back, Rebecca got really, really sick. She was just exhausted from the trip. Everybody was exhausted from the trip. It's a very real thing. Traveling for that long, especially if you have kids, is exhausting. And for us, the consequences it was having for the kids, as far as being in a vehicle for so long, not having enough time to play, it was the wiser decision just to say, we may never make it back to those states. We thought we would, but we're never going to make it back.
Let's see. Hi from England. Hi, Eileen. Linkosu. Let's see. Jacqueline Carrera says, John, do you notice a big difference in your girls this time upon coming back? Big, like height? Yes. I think it took a day.
And confidence. They both have a huge amount of confidence, especially Paige. She's taken over my milking now, which is huge. It's really good for her. She struggles with her flexibility in her legs, and so her having to crouch down and do the milking kind of on her haunches is really good for her flexibility. But for me, it's really nice because if I don't have time to run out and milk, she can run out of milk and I can get breakfast on. And so I need to find some reason to get down on my haunches and keep my flexibility since she's taking over the goats. Because again, most of what I do on the homestead is at least half therapeutic. The reason we do it is for the therapy of the motion, for the therapy of being out in the sunlight, for the therapy of being out and sweating. And so it's, with the goats, it's not just about the goat's milk, it's about the process of going out and taking care of the goats. It's the process of crouching down to milk the goats. And if I make it too easy on myself by letting my kids do too many of the chores, I miss out on the therapeutic nature of what it is that we're trying to do.
So, let's see. Jacqueline says, no, not height voice, mentally and emotionally. Do I notice a difference? Probably not.
We're working on it,
a
though.
lot of that, well...
With Paige in particular. Right?
No. They're still my darling children, and I pretty much talk to them almost every night on the phone. So, I think conversation-wise and seeing them mentally, emotionally, I can't say that I've been along for the ride, but it's not like I have
Been ignorant of the
been,
ride?
yes, exactly. So let's see. Hello from East Oregon, says Michael Gross.
Hello, hello.
Where is your brother in Michigan?
I don't remember off the top of my head. He's been there for 4 years now. We have enough winter here that we don't feel like going to other states that have even worse winters than we do.
Right.
And we don't travel in the winter. He has come back down to Idaho more often than we've gone out there. I guess if we wanted to plan something big, Spider, go push it.
Where? Oh, it's Bob.
I guess for me, honey, you're crowding me. No, I can't do what I'm doing.
Darn.
My elbow needs
Darn.
to be able to move.
Darn.
Am
I in the way?
no, you're just fine. You're fine there. If we're gonna travel like that, I have to be able to make money to pay for the trip because I make my money on YouTube, and so we have to kind of turn it into a big filming extravaganza, which is really fatiguing.
Did I miss something when I'm squishing a spider?
What?
I don't know. Someone's saying troll drop force. Good job, Wholesome Roots. Glad you were on it as well.
If I could go by myself, and maybe if I was on a bicycle, I think I would enjoy that trip more. But I hate sitting that much. It's really hard on my hips. And we've actually been talking about could mom go and do like a bike tour, bike across the country type of a thing, and go see some of the places that we missed the first time around.
Windswept Homestead just nailed it. I don't mind spiders until they're in the house. Exactly right? And then even something as wonderful as a lightning bug or a...
When it crawls over your face at
Yes.
night.
Oh, just not in my house.
We had cockroaches in Oklahoma, and I had one land on me in the night once. That was fun.
Right. Let's see. Tambo says, do your siblings homestead too?
No, not at all. They're not the least bit interested, or if they're interested, they don't have the urgency about it that I do. They know how to do it. All my siblings know how to take care of animals and garden and that kind of thing. All of them except maybe the youngest two. But yeah, all my other siblings have the capacity, but not the
Motivation?
not the huge desire. Not a huge desire to do it. And so they don't, which is just fine. They have other things that help them tick for me. I stop ticking when I don't have my animals and when I don't have my garden. I just kind of, I don't function. Although I've never given it very much time, have I? The road trip was the longest time that we didn't have animals and we didn't have a garden. Because everywhere
So if that's
we stopped,
your comparison, I don't think that's a fair
right,
comparison.
everywhere we stopped, there was something that came up that was farm related.
Let's see. Funny. Okay, now we're talking about bugs in houses. Yeah, it's horrible. Okay, Frederick Nolan, dry versus wet snow as a fellow Michigander who has been in Idaho in winter.
So we have the dry snow and you have the wet snow.
Yeah, especially middle of January at minus 30. Everything
It gets
is
very
dry.
crunchy.
So, let's see. Yeah, Wholesome Road says the same thing. 4 siblings here are all raised homesteading, and I'm the only one who homesteads.
Yeah.
My siblings garden, but that's it.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of personality. The things when I was a kid, I was into homesteading. Laura Ingalls Wilder, any book I could find on homesteading. I read old family history journals about homesteading. All my research was geared towards doing things myself, and I was fascinated by it. And I very early on really knew who I was when it came to animals and that kind of thing. And with my other siblings, I have one that's a fantastic chef. I have another one who's a computer guru, another one who's an amazing artist and computer stuff like that. I actually have a lot of artists in my family. I have one that loves politics, and they all pretty much knew early on, and mine was always homesteading and animals. I know about other things, but I don't choose other things. This is just what I choose. Makes me sing, makes me happy.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
And if my kids don't choose to homestead, I want to know that at least I gave them the skills to do it if they wanted to.
Right. Like, yeah. Like the thing that I wanted my girls to do as we've started raising, I've been able to work on cars. So change a tire, change the oil, change the spark plugs, air filters, blah, blah, blah. Do we have something?
No, it's
That
cats.
was weird. Okay. Cats are noisy. They sound like 200-pound humans. Those are big kittens.
You have some stealthy 200-pound humans in
Not
your
really.
life.
Let's see. So, yeah. Let's see. Tambo asked something a minute ago. Let me back up.
John, not seeing you running through the something.
Through the fields singing.
No, he doesn't do
Avonlea
that.
is like, no, I'm not singing that.
He's been very kind and helped with chores while he's been here, but at the same time I'm making breakfast while he's doing chores. So that is the thing about homestead life is nobody really has time to sit on their laurels. There's always some little bit of something that needs to be done in order for everybody to be taken care of.
See, back in Tulsa, we had bike rides.
We had bike rides. We had more
weekend,
leisure.
Like, yeah.
A lot of leisure. But then you have to go out and you have to find your exercise. Here, it's just part of what you do every day. Whereas in Tulsa, we went to the gym every single day, and we'd ride bikes, and we'd go for walks in order to keep our mobility up, and our flexibility, and our health
And
going.
our family time. Here,
Yeah.
it's chores for family.
Yeah, it's just built in. Although you haven't had one of our normal night times here yet. Because usually what we'll do is we'll finish our chores up, and then we'll lay down, we'll read stories, and cuddle. But we have a little bit less space with John here. And so what's been happening is that instead we've just kind of been going to bed. But usually we spend about an hour and a half, the girls and I, here in the living room. We light the lanterns, or not the lanterns, the candles. We light the candles, and we just spend some time in the soft light, reading, talking, and then we go to bed.
I have to plug my phone in, so Wholesome Ruts, you got the wrench and the troll spray. Good luck. So, let's see. I think she's talking to you here,
What'd she say?
Avonlea. She says, even when you're sitting here spinning, even field singing, even when you're sitting, you're spinning, you're inspirational. So, there you go.
It's just my crazy brain. It's just my crazy brain. It's the way that my brain operates either at full tilt or at full stop. And so if I'm sitting, I get depressed very easily. My body thrives on motion. And so it's more about personality than anything, if that makes sense.
So Off-Grid Lifestyle says, question, if you would put a prize for the tiny house, how many zeros would you put behind it?
Only 3.
You think so?
Yeah.
So it's only a 4-figure home?
4 or 5, low
I think
5. Just because
Frederick Nolan says, I'm more of the goat herder from The Sound of Music.
for me, I didn't build this cabin to make money as far as for selling it. What I'd really like to see happen is I'd really like to see it be an Airbnb and let people come and experience the little cabin and have it truly be off-grid without solar panels or anything like that. Again, the only electricity we have is for the fridge. Because I really do believe in the therapeutic nature of candlelight and firelight and slowing down. And if I bring solar panels and everything like that into it, I think you lose that. I think it speeds you back up. And so my initial desire with the tiny house was exactly that. I wanted to do an Airbnb or somewhere for my woofers to live when they came to help with the property. I always meant for it to stay here on the property and maybe earn a little bit of income with an Airbnb, or be that place where we could have family come and stay if we had family here who wanted to experience the little farm and yet have their own space. It's very organic as far as like the materials are not all organic, but the way that I built it was very organic. It wasn't expensive. I don't have to get a lot of money out of it in order to make it worth it to me. Yes, honey?
Ava and Leanne says she'd love to see the process for starting an Airbnb. She's thought about it herself. I'm assuming her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So, reading comments will be a little more fun. That bobbin fills up quick.
Well, with this kind, it does.
Is
If I was actually spinning right now instead of flying, it would take a lot more time.
So is that the 16-ounce bobbin or
No,
the 8
it's
ounce?
8 ounce.
Okay.
That's why I prefer 4-ounce bobbins.
They make a 32-ounce apparently.
They do.
Thing's gonna be like that big around.
Okay, so the process.
Good to see you, John. Oh, thank you.
The process for an Airbnb is pretty simple. You just have to make sure that it's safe. A lot of people, all they have to do is just add it up on, they just take their pictures and put it up. And as far as safety regulations, they're pretty lax because it's your home. And I've been in some where I don't think any tiny house is safe if it has a loft and no railing. If you're gonna have kids there, you need a railing, and maybe don't let the kids in the loft at all. Esther Emery's neighbor had a little 2 or 3-year-old who broke her arm falling down the stairs of their loft, and they had a railing. So, as far as safety issues like that, there's that one thing that I would change before I would be willing to have people come out for Airbnb or be willing to rent it. I sleep between the railing and the children at night, and I have things stacked up along the edge of the storage railing so that it's not easy to get to the edge in the storage loft. And the reason for that is just that kids goof off and they're not always paying attention. And if I don't have a physical barrier, at least I need a very, very solid visual barrier that would take some effort to get through. That's really important to me. So that's what I would change about our Airbnb. What else would I do? I would change the landscaping. It's always hard for me when I first start a garden because I like to use free, non-expensive items, but that never looks very nice. So usually it's version 2 or 3 that actually looks nice when I'm finished. It just takes time. And so next year that would probably be the thing that I would be focusing on. If I don't get the railing in this year, then I will be working on the landscaping next year as well as the railing.
Somebody's asking, do we still have the animals in Tulsa? Nay.
They are at friends' homes.
Let me read this. I'm not going to charge very fast reading comments back here, but oh well. I'll just drive it into destruction. When it dies, it dies. Okay, when is yourself a homesteader or okay, sorry, David Russell, when can you consider yourself a homesteader or someone who is off-grid? Is it an all or nothing lifestyle?
Okay, question. What was that?
When can you consider yourself a homesteader or someone who is off-grid? Is it an all or nothing lifestyle?
With the off-grid, it is not all or nothing. I think it's just very intentional. Some people choose to live with a generator. Some people choose to live with a solar panel. Some people choose to just not have appliances in their home and to just not have power at all. And if what you're doing is intentional and you're doing it for whatever your purpose is, you're just trying to experience your life in a different way because it's what you want to do, that's legitimate.
Doug
That's
and Stacey
legitimate.
are here. Speaking of legitimate
Yeah, Doug and
off-gridders,
Stacey
Doug
do
and
it
Stacey
different.
just showed
If I
up.
remember right, they don't have a generator even, at least not when we were out there, they didn't have a generator. And they don't have solar panels. And so I think it's about intention and it's about being aware of the needs of your family and deciding what invasive technology you want to have and what invasive technology you don't want to have, what conveniences you want, what conveniences you don't want. I don't care about having a washer and dryer, but I do care about having a fridge. And that's just how I personally feel about it. As far as homesteading goes, I think that if your intention is to be more self-reliant and to make what you can from what you have, that, I think homesteader is like a misnomer. Is that the right word? It's not really a word that means anything because there's so many variables within it. If you have a garden, you're gardening. You're growing your own food, so why would you need to label that as homesteader? If you love milk goats because you love the milk, but also because you love the animals, but you don't have a garden, you're a shepherdess. You're a goat herder. Do you have to do all of them? No. But the purpose, I think, is just to be self-aware. What brings you joy? Some parts of what other people are doing are not going to bring you joy. And the purpose is to bring you joy, not to bring you misery and condemnation.
Suffering for the sake
Suffering
of the
for
name.
the sake of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I do this because I love it, and I bring things in and I take things out as they do or do not bring me joy.
Right. Yeah, Wholesome Root says, I think you can be a homesteader and live in an apartment. I do agree.
And which is what we might end up doing. We might end up having, I mean, at one point, my husband's really patient.
She liked the apartment.
No idea how patient my husband is. When we first got quail, we kept them in my kitchen because I wanted to see how small of a space I could raise eggs in. And so when I did this, John didn't look at me like, woman, you are the nuttiest lady I have ever met. Instead, he's like, oh.
I had already accepted that point.
But he was just like, oh, we're going to keep quail in cages in this shelf in the kitchen and see how it works. Okay. And we did. We did it for several weeks, and it was terrible. What we learned about quail, though, it was really invaluable what we learned because they were there. We could observe them. They're terribly messy when they're in cages. Terribly messy. They'll eat and they'll drink, and then they'll shake their head. And it splatters food everywhere. What we found was that once we took them out of the cage system, they stopped picking on each other and they stopped wasting their food. And by putting them into the greenhouse, they actually started to hatch out their own babies, which they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
They don't do it in captivity.
We were told over and over and over, quails, you'll have to incubate every egg. It will never happen.
And they did. Our first or our second summer. Right. I think it was our second year.
Yep.
Once we had huge habitat for them in the greenhouse where we had tomatoes growing over everything and squash growing over everything. It looked like a jungle. They started to hatch out their own babies. And they stopped making the mess. They stopped wasting their feed. One bag of feed would last them for a year. And we also found that you cannot mix your own food for quail without adding in, I think it's niacin. But you have to be very careful about mixing food for quail. They are not as, at least the Therapeutic ones that are heavy for meat, they're not as easygoing as far as their diet like other domesticated birds. The quail, we always had to get them the wild game bird feed in order to not have them dying of protein deficiencies. But we loved them, but we learned by putting them in our kitchen, in our big house, which is nuts. Because I wanted to test it. I wanted to see, could you raise animals in your home, in a closet? If all you had was an apartment, could you raise them? And the thing is, I don't think you'd want to. They get very stinky. They're very messy when in captivity. They do so much better when they are partially protected in a free-range situation. I know I talked too much about livestock. I'm sorry. What do people want to know?
Nothing, actually. Julie, how is the keto diet? How goes the keto diet?
I got really sick yesterday going off of it. I was miserably sick yesterday.
And by going off of it, she had a tomato soup base with zucchini and celery and onions.
But it was just the broth. I didn't even eat the tomatoes.
So there was no protein to go with it.
Yeah.
So
and I put like 4 tablespoons of butter on it.
That was too carby.
It made me so sick. It made me so sick. I feel so much better this morning getting back on. Which really surprised me. My mom was really worried about me doing the ketosis thing. And so I had read this other book called The Walls Diet, which is supposed to be more low carb, not keto. and I read it, and you're supposed to eat like 6 to 9 cups of vegetables. So I was just experimenting a little bit to see if I just eat like a cup and a half of carbs at one time, which is just zucchini, what's going to happen. And what happened was I got sick. It could just be because I haven't had any.
Meanwhile, in my world, I'm going for 50 pounds of loss inside of 3 months.
Yeah.
So.
But I haven't lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
It's more just been that I have felt really well.
Right. Tambo brings up a good point. Says, remember, diets don't last. Correct. Lifestyle changes have to be there.
Yeah.
That's what lasts. Let's see. Well, Off-Grid Lifestyle says, you look really energetic.
Who? Me?
You.
Yes. Quite energetic.
Never stops.
Never stops. We just needed more of that,
She's
didn't we?
always
I'm
really
always like
energetic.
that, but now am I worse? I'm not worse now,
No,
am I?
no, actually, you're really...
More level.
There was quite a
More
roller
consistent.
coaster of,
Either sleeping or frantic.
Yep. So. Oh, funny. Let's see. Oh, Doug says, good to see us together. Thanks, Doug. We're not really that together because she elbows me in the ribs
he's not allowed to
when
touch
I get
me
too
right now,
close.
because I'm
She's
still
like,
trying.
uh-huh.
I could
Apparently
stop
I'm
doing
irritating.
what I'm doing. No, you just make it so I can't move my arm.
Right. Okay, Brown Coat Homestead says, so true. Julie is the Energizer Bunny of Homestead. Yep. Let's see. Oh, Lonnie.com says food is an addiction. It can be. So.
Well, and what I have found is with our travels that now we generally don't eat a lot of dairy anymore because it doesn't come from our goats. But then when we got home and now we have all this goat's milk, we're still not eating it. We kind of got out of the habit of all the dairy, besides butter. It's just been interesting. Has it not been an interesting, changeful period of time that we've had recently?
Well, which define recently? Last year,
All
last 2 years,
our
5
strangest years of our lives. The last few.
4 years, 3 years now.
3 years. It's been strange.
It has been a significant shift. I'm not sure about strange.
It feels strange.
I think because 3 years ago, when all this really started to move, we were doing the same activities we really are at this moment.
But on a much bigger scale, with fear.
You mean
we had fear involved.
Right. Yes.
A lot of what we were doing when we were doing the prepping and homesteading in the big house was fear related. We didn't want to let go of anything. We felt like the world was a bad, scary place. And then we went out into this bad, scary place of a world, and we found so many people that we loved.
Right.
And that life didn't stop just because we weren't attached to our prepper stuff.
And the place wasn't really bad, scary, horrible like we had heard.
Lovely people. We met so many wonderful,
Amazing.
wonderful people.
What was we were just talking? So Grandma and Grandpa Dirt. I was just talking with them the other day of, hey, you know what? Maybe we want to go someplace else, and do something else. And first thing they had said was, do you know how expensive it is there? Do you know that it's so different and it's so? And I'm like, yes, those are all reasons to never go. We should go.
Well, but the thing that we have learned is that just because you can go do something doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Correct.
It's almost never easy, but that doesn't mean it's not doable.
Correct.
So if you really think you want to do it, you're going to have to sacrifice to do it. It's not like we walked away from that road trip with millions of dollars and huge success for the business that was going to last forever without hard work.
That's right.
None of that happened. But what we did get to do was go experience some amazing things. It was really hard. And the things that we still have that we'd like to go do, I think the biggest thing is preparation and kind of acknowledging the work.
Doug's funny. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going. You guys are hilarious.
And keeping your monetary needs really low. Really prioritizing what it is you want to spend money on and spending more money on experiences rather than stuff. That has been one of the biggest tricks, is by not having a lot of stuff, we had more income to spend on experiences. What? Was
So
it
Lonnie,
Doug being snarky?
Doug is just spot on.
What?
Funny. Lonnie.com says, you are teaching people to live without fear. Heroes in my book. Love you all to the moon. We love
Aw.
you too. It's so good to talk to you.
Lonnie's the one who kind of started us on our journey. She found us our house.
Yeah, it's true.
She knew us back in the original house. And she saw all my original grow beds and all my original crazy and the Angora rabbits in the garage.
And she's like, "How do we make this work?" And
yeah.
she did.
And she did. She found
learned
it.
us how to fix it for the normal world, I guess, if you want to make it mesh. Your mom's on.
What did Doug say?
Hi, Mom.
I still don't know what Doug said.
Smiley face.
No, that's
Yes,
not what he
right
said
there,
before.
smiley
I thought you
face.
said Doug was
See?
saying something
Smiley
funny.
face
I don't
right
like
there.
to miss the Dougisms.
Most of the world's population own less than we carry on a plane for a week-long trip.
Well, and we traveled
Interesting.
like that for a long time,
Yeah, we
but we
did.
had our kitchens with us included in that. So all of our earthly possessions were inside the minivan, including the 2 dogs. And so each of us had a big Rubbermaid full of clothes. We each got 1 Rubbermaid. And then we had 1 Rubbermaid full of kitchen utensils and 1 Rubbermaid full of actual food. And then we had our emergency kit, and that was it. Oh, and 1 box for school for the girls.
And tools. And we had tools to work on the RV. So you're talking about RV or
Minivan.
tiny house? Oh, minivan. Yeah,
Minivan.
yeah. Yep. Lonnie says she was there when you butchered your first rabbit through tears.
Oh, that's right. That was
Yeah.
terrible. I forgot that she. Oh, that was so terrible, and it tasted so horrible because I did such a bad job on it.
Well, an Okie girl. Oh, did she ever get back about how the rabbits are? Or tasted?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's right.
Right.
The first rabbit experiences with butchering were really, really, really hard. And I'm so much faster at it now, but it was really, really hard. That was a long time ago. That was 11 years ago? 10 years ago. 10 years ago?
Was
9
it?
years
No,
ago?
I don't think it was 9.
Because
It's still
Paige
single
was like
digits.
3. Wasn't
Right.
she?
So this would have been 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Still single digits away. Let's see. What size is your tiny house?
12 by 32. Plus 2 lofts in the top.
Doug and Stacey say live the adventure.
Yeah, live the adventure.
Live the adventure. Agreed. Let's see.
And I would like the girls, one of the things I'm really, really focusing on with the girls right now is skills, practical physical skills, because I think if girls, or probably boys to get to a certain age, their capacity to be flexible and to be nimble and to have trust in their physical body kind of shifts. And so what I'm working on right now is we're doing a lot of horse riding, trying to help them with balance and confidence and slow thinking, slowing down and breathing. I'd really like to
Thinking.
deliberate, that's a good way to put it, deliberate thinking and responsibility around something that is unpredictable. Horses are unpredictable, more so than goats. I'd also like to start wall climbing with them, help them with their upper body strength. And along that line, I would really, really like to take them and live for a little while next to the ocean somewhere and let them go out and play in the waves and experience that.
And learn sailing.
Yeah, sailing might be fun.
Let's see. Okay Girl says yes, she's cooked them a few times. They taste good. Your mom says it was your grandpa that gave you your first rabbit when you were 2.
Yes.
He said Julie means this.
Yes, he did.
Apparently, he said that about a horse a couple years later.
He did. When I was 10, he also gave me a little Arabian filly. And my parents were
right
not
there.
prepared for that.
Right there. She said, and never asked permission before he gave animals.
Yes,
Geese,
he never did.
Rabbits, Arabian horse. Yep.
He saw in me what made me tick. And so he was determined that I was to have that. I was the first granddaughter.
Much to the chagrin of parents.
But you have to admit, it was what made me tick. Even though I was allergic to all of them for most of my life, my exposure to them helped me to stop being afraid of the outside world. And even now, to this day, I'm allergic to most of the animals that I interact with if I rub up against them too much. And yet, it helps my body learn to stop overreacting. So it's like I'm immunizing myself to these things that my body thinks are the devil.
Jacqueline Carrera says it would be cool to see a drone shot of your homestead. Have you guys thought to borrow one and have that done?
We've done that. We actually have footage of it all over the place. We've used it in some of the videos. Which video did we use? Oh, we used it in the video that was of us delivering the tiny house. We have drone shots from that.
There's not much. Lonnie said 2009 was when that happened.
Was it 2009?
So 9 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that was interesting.
Oh, parents said we would just stand with our mouths open in shock that we now had these animals. And what do we now? Well, how do we now house this animal? And how do we pay for food? And now we need a fence.
Yep. That's how I learned how to do animals backwards, was because I was always just, we always just had animals show up and we never had anything for them. So that's why I got really good with building things out of garbage, was because that's pretty much what we had on hand when I was a kid to be able to make stuff.
Tambo says, Dirt Patch, what's next?
Going home meaning wherever John is, which would be Oklahoma. And whatever we get, I will probably be doing self-watering containers like my mom does. We've talked to a few landlords who said that it was okay if we got a few chickens and that kind of thing. I'm not sure how fast I would jump into that. I think I would probably focus a little harder on just getting a rabbit and putting a hutch in, and then doing a garden rather than necessarily bringing chickens in immediately, because I have a really hard time starting something and then never getting anything out of it. And for the last 2-3 years, every time we stop somewhere and I get something developed, we leave again. And it's a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of emotion to put into something that you never get to have any benefit out of.
So Michael Gross, John, are you still in school or looking for a job, for your forever job? The answer is yes. Decided to go back to school because, one, the job I have right now, they were really excited to have me, really wanted to see the education.
So you did find a job in your education field. So he got a job.
Related in my education field, yes.
But they're willing for him to go back for continuing it. So he did graduate, but he just wants to go in a little deeper.
Right. And so there's a little bit left that I think I can pull out. And even if I don't go back for a full year, now that it's a non-credit sort of thing.
More like a continuing education type of a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the girls would do with their own bedroom, and we've been sharing such tiny closets, and Paige is getting big enough that it's kind of fun to see her in some more grown-up clothes. And so I'm kind of excited for the bedroom situation, because they really haven't had bedrooms for so long, and they want a little bit of independence. So even if they have to share a room, it'll be bigger than what they've had for the last 2 or 3 years.
So phone just died, so we'll squint. Julie, you did more successfully. And we lost. Somebody type in a smiley face. One person type in a smiley face, and we'll see the message move up. Or ask a question. Okay. You did more successfully in your short stay in Oklahoma than I've done at all here. Oh, that's Avon Leanne. I don't know.
It was fun to see that it worked. Something that has worked here, it's always a little bit, nerve-wracking to be like, am I all talk? Can I really duplicate this anywhere? Is it going to work? And so seeing it work as well as it did, and the timing was the same, that I could grow things there as well as I did in Idaho, same principles. It was really exciting for me to see that.
Thanks, guys. The one person putting a smiley face, we ended up like 10. It was awesome. So,
I kind of wanted to show him the bobbin, but it's going to be...
Oh, it's getting full.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you want to pluck it off, or are you going to empty this whole
I wanted
thing?
to empty it because it's all the same colorway.
If you're going to have room that way.
I don't know. I probably should have started off tighter. All right. We have been on for an hour now. Did you guys have anything else you want to say?
High life in the UP, the lower bridge troll. Okay, that's good to know.
Do you want to go push the button?
If
you guys are interested in the rabbit hutches that I will be bringing in because they come in already made, I am going with the hostile Hare cages now. I don't know, I just think they're pretty nice. But that would be the first thing I would do if we get into a rental where we can keep animals, is that I would build up a hutch first thing and make sure that I have lots of manure coming for when I need it. I do think that rabbits, as far as gardening, are the most, well, I don't know, I can't say that. Ducks and rabbits. If I couldn't have anything else, I'd go ducks and rabbits.
Avon Leanne is asking if you would help her with her treadle.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
Did you want to take me some videos and send them to me?
Off-grid lifestyle says, show us.
Show us?
What you were just talking about. I think.
See if I can show it to you.
Sure.
This one is...
We have this much bobbin left, which is about a quarter.
Mhm.
And it
Maybe.
already filled up.
So that's what I have left. We'll see if I can get it done. We're supposed to go get the kids here in a bit to go play with family. Thank you for sharing your day with us. Well, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Lana.
I have a robin
Bobbin
that
holder
has a
and
bullet look.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the easiest part of it. In fact, I could just show you right now.
Should
Hold
I
on a second.
Tilt the camera down?
Nope.
So now the awkward silence where John doesn't know what to say. Avon Leanne says, love you, thank you. Thanks, I love you too.
Okay, hold
I
on
think
a
she's
second.
talking to you, honey. So,
Well, I'm going to grab the bobbin and let her see it.
okay.
So keep
And
talking.
we can't find. Always a fun adventure with tons of knowledge and cool facts. Thank you, Brown Coat Homestead. Josh and Mandy, hello. Hope you didn't just show up. We're on our way out, actually. So that awkward silence. John, a tap dance would go down awesome right now. Yeah, I'll bet it would. And no. So.
All right. So here's your bullet. This is your bobbin holder. Here's your bobbin. And what you need to do, can you see? If you tickle me, I'm going to shove it up your nose.
Yeah, but it's a bullet shape. It might go in smooth.
Stop it.
So.
Okay. So I
Got
might
it?
need to stand in front of
got
it so you can see it.
That's the
I need to put myself
bottom.
here. No, stop moving. I'm trying to focus. Stop moving. Put it down. Okay. So here it is. You can see. Okay, ready? Here's my bobbin. There we go. See this line right there? We're going to put it through there. See that? And then what it needs to do is go up underneath this line, like so, and it'll catch all the way up here, and you'll hear it click, and then you'll pull this through to that little hole right there. Do you see that? If I hold really, really still, will it focus? Focus, right there. So now it's ready to go. And that's what it does. Do you want to see that a little bit faster? Hey, Linda Moore. Please let your husband answer some of the questions. Which questions was he not answering? Which question would you like to answer, honey?
I don't know. I don't remember any of the old questions.
So I'll show you one more time. I'll try to show it to you a little bit faster. You're so funny. Here's the little line. See that right there? How old are we? I'm 38.
John, how old? What was it asking? I think it was directed at me. John, what's your thoughts on the rocket stove? I haven't seen it like run in person. It's been the warm summer months. I think it's smaller than it appears on camera. And I think that it has helped regulate the temperature in here even in the summer, because during the heat of the day it feels a little cooler than it did last year. So, does that answer? Or what other thoughts would you like to know? As far as burning, yeah, I haven't had any experience yet. Did you want the other bum? So, let's see. Thank you, Wholesome Ruts. As I stare blankly at the camera looking for questions. Apparently John questions.
See, that's why I talk so much, is just because we could just sit here in silence.
Sure. I'm good with it. You remember
You're
when
not good with
you remember
silence.
when the live streams first came out, we had a lot of channels, and that's what it was. It was like
What?
like staring at the camera and like we're waiting for a question to come in.
Not realizing we're supposed to just sit here and jabber.
Right.
Keep everybody entertained.
Keep the dead air filled. Yes, exactly. Well, and
That was a long time ago too.
spam and trolls come in and you can't read those. So let's see. I thought you were more 30s.
We are 30s.
Right, 39. Yeah, we don't hit 40s until next year. Haha. So.
Who's we?
We.
I still don't hit.
We.
I don't hit 40 next year.
year.
Oh, that's right, because my birthday's in October.
Wait. October. There's no October next year. Let's see. Speaking of dead air, apparently, yeah, right. So that was exactly the long pause. Good job, Avonlea. You need a partner. You can be silent and not be uncomfortable.
Oh, I can be totally silent and not be uncomfortable, but I don't think it's very entertaining.
Yeah, that's true. We would lose a lot of viewership if it was just me. So you guys would not find it nearly as exciting of a show. Because I don't spin. I could show you an AR-15.
I have zero light, honey. You're going to have to sit back.
I can't sit back. We're in like...
Scoot back.
Fine. So, type in really big caps now, because I can't read.
Thank you, Julie, for the tutorial. Really appreciate it. Well, I hope it was helpful. I probably need to do a regular video where I can zoom in on it so you can really see it. Because once you see how to do it, it's really, really straightforward. But if you can't see the hole and you can't see the line, then it doesn't really... And then you probably need to see me put it into the machine to show you how to do it.
Thought you guys were younger. Oh. Says bye, have a great day. Like, oh, no, we're old. So,
no interest in old fogies.
It really was, I really was out of practice now. I am, and then the comment fades away. Who built this app? Visual learner, so helped a lot. God, thank you. Mrs. Dirt is forever young and beautiful.
Actually, my focus lately has been on picking things back up that I used to do when I was a lot younger, because my body doesn't feel as good when I don't do them. When we got back from our trip, it hurt to walk, and I was having nerve pain, a lot of nerve pain. I wasn't sleeping at night, that kind of thing. And so that's why I started the riding over again, because that's what I used to do to stay in shape when I was a kid, and why I want to start rock climbing.
But she never does her homework.
I do my homework.
The instructor has told... Okay.
No.
The instructor...
No. No.
AR-15 likes...
Let's see the video.
Let's see that video. Yeah, no kidding.
What are you studying specifically?
Okay, so the specific... Well, last year there was mobile application development and programming. Oh, thank you, Farmal Fanatic. Appreciate that. And also a secondary bit in cybersecurity. The cybersecurity became the primary thing because I realized I'm not a coder. I don't do software so much. So, but IT was really exciting and fun because I can play with this computer and I can break it and it's fun.
Oh, you're going to Am I Gardener. Oh, that's super fun. We actually have affiliate codes with M.I. Gardener. I do want to go see his store too, and he has great seeds, for sure. I would be excited to see what the store looks like. I'm really happy for them.
So anyway, I'm working in an IT field right now, and since the cybersecurity was a 2-year program, but you can go as far as you want to go. Once you've reached that threshold of the second year, they are building me some more stuff to look at and learn. So that's the cybersecurity is the field that I'm really hoping and doing school for. And comments? Anybody? Questions?
I'm gonna go make lunch.
Okay. Have a good day, guys. It's good to see you all.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yes.
Thanks, Tambo.
Okay, Eric. Well, go ahead.
Oops.
No, go for it. CompTIA certification, yes, it's built for a CompTIA certification, is what I was going to say.
Rival of the big thumb.